Hi there, Sandra here from Createinspain. I made a video recently about this stuff here. It's called Poly Opaque. I got it off of Amazon. It wasn't overly expensive. It's polypropylene report covers, apparently. 100 in a pack, A4 size, and they're 300 microns thick. Excellent for using to cut stencils. Now yesterday I mentioned that I cut this stencil on my laser because I got a diode laser, and that's why I ordered it in black, because I can't cut transparent things with my laser. If you have a CO2 laser, it doesn't make any difference, you'll be able to cut it no matter which you had. Now the settings I used for my 20 watt laser, my X-Tool S1, were a power of 50 and a speed of 50. So that did it really nicely, no problem there. However, today I did some testing on my Siser Juliet, and you can cut this with a force of 80 and 2 passes. Now your machine may vary slightly from mine, and if you've got more or less blade sticking out, it might vary a bit. But that's what I used to cut, and it cut it fine. Cut it like butter. It's no problem at all. You do need to make sure that your mat is very sticky, because otherwise it's going to move around. So make sure your mat's sticky, and I would advise taping it down as well, just to make sure it doesn't move. Especially since if you're doing 2 passes, you need it to be in exactly the same place. So 2 passes at 80, and that did it, no problem whatsoever. So the other thing that I didn't show you when I made the last video was the result of using this stencil here, and I'll give you the file down below. I made it in Procreate, and then I imported it into Shortcut Slot to do a trace to get the SVG. And I've got several different cards. I did 4 this morning that used the same pattern and give slightly different results. Now this one is embossed on a silver foil card. As you can tell, that embossing comes out really well. I have a 270 GSM from Aldi. Their coloured card cuts really well and also embosses nicely. I have a white card here, which is 350 GSM that I used for the base and for this front panel. And what I did with that one was I put it so that the ornaments are sunk in rather than raised. So I turned it around the opposite way. I've put a little silver border with a marker around the edge, and I added a little colouring to it as well. Makes the embossing or debossing, whichever it is, I always forget, it makes it stand out a little more, and it just gives it something extra. And then the last one, this one has been inked as well, and I don't actually use ink. I use paints to do it, but I use a brush, a little bit of glycerin and a tiny amount of paint, and that gives me the same type of effect. And that one's come out really nicely as well. So 4 cards, different cards, but the same embossing folder or embossing plate has been used. Now in my case, I have a Gemini, and the stack that I used was the clear base plate. I then put on the opaque plastic plate, and then I used a piece of this stuff because I don't like. This is the mat that came with my Gemini, and after about 3 uses, it had already done that. I kept this old one, and I did complain to the company, and they sent me another mat. I've just kept it in its wrapper. I've not even opened it. I find that a piece of this stuff, which get in, I think it's packs of 2, might be 2, it might be 3 in Aldi when they have it. This is supposed to be for baking cookies and whatever, but it's really good because if you cut a piece of this, this doesn't walk in the package like the other stuff did. It stays put, it doesn't move. It's like that, you know, you can put pressure on it and it doesn't actually shift, which is great. So I used that, then put the card on top, and then finally you put your stencil over the top of it, whatever stencil you're using, the clear plastic on top of that, and then you run it through the Gemini. I'm sure that other embossing machines have a very similar type of stack, but I'm not familiar with those. You might wonder why you don't make stencils out of card for embossing. You can, and it works fine once or twice. The trouble is that card, nature of the fibre, will get crushed, and therefore it stops being as good at embossing as it was when you first made it, so you have to keep making them. Whereas something like this has the resistance and it'll just stay as is. So a great stencil, easily washed, and a great embossing folder. So that's worked out really, really well. I'm very happy with that purchase. I don't have any Amazon links. I don't do that these days. I've just got fed up with trying to put links in for everything. But you want to find poly-opaque if you're looking after the opaque one. If you are looking for something to cut on the laser, you want to look for polypropylene because you can safely cut that rather than vinyl, which you can't. But other than that, it'll be dependent on whether you have a CO2, i.e. you can do transparent ones, or a diode, in which case you need a solid colour, hence the black. So that's it for today. I hope you've enjoyed the video. I said I'll put the file for this one down below and you can try it out for yourself. Thanks for watching. Take care now.